दूरेण यवरं कर्म बुद्धियोगात् धनञ्जय बुद्धौ शरणमन्विच्छ कृपणाफलहेतवः. So, remaining steady in yoga, keeping the mind in even position or state, one must work, one must act in the world. In that connection, now Bhagavan further says, far lower than the yoga of wisdom is action. So, action is not important as much as it is important to remain even-minded while performing any action. Is life important or the essence of life important? The essence of life is that one does not get disturbed by the ups and downs of life. The essence of human life is that. In other lives of other beings also there is action, there is activity, and that is based on instincts. But the human being is not expected to live only on instincts. In fact, the human being is not expected to live on any instinct, but is expected to have an intellectual life. So it is very pleasing for an individual to be called as an intellectual. But whether the person is living a life based on intellect or not will be determined by his or her even-mindedness. If the person is getting disturbed and perturbed by the life's ups and downs, then it proves that the person is yet living on instincts. So instinctual life is animalistic life. But if the human being is able to hold the mind in an even state, then the person is considered to be a true human being. So what is the difference between a human being and other beings is this, that the humans have got the advantage of being an intellectual being. But I can be an intellectual being only when I drop my instinctive life. Therefore, Bhagavan had said that it is important to act because action is the sign of life, but that activity must be handled in a way where the mind is held in quiet position. The mind is held by the intellect in an even state. So, action itself is not important, but how well do you perform the action without getting disturbed by the circumstances is what the challenge is in life. Buddhau sharanam anvichcha. So a man of wisdom has taken the refuge in knowledge. So Bhagavan says, therefore seek the refuge in wisdom. Wretched are they whose motive is the fruit. Kripanaha phalahetavaha. If I act for the purpose of gaining something out of action, then definitely my mind will always be agitated, disturbed, perturbed by worries and anxieties. My past experiences of similar activity will bring worries, and my future anxieties for fruit will bring disturbance in mind due to anxiety. So very conveniently, I will lose even-mindedness. So what was my purpose of activity? The purpose of activity was to slowly get established in my Chid Swarup, in my essential self, which is effulgent with knowledge. The activity itself is not going to take me to the self, but the activity will let me transcend the false world. If I handle the activity with wisdom, but if I handle the activity with anxiety or worries, then my purpose is the fruit. So I am losing out on my present action by throwing my mind in future or past. So therefore the performance won't be efficient. There will be lack of efficiency in my performance. Kripanaha phalahetavaha. Only the men of ignorance or greed or some negativities will perform for fruit. Or self-centered or greedy, they will perform action for fruits. Not those who establish themselves in wisdom. Both will perform action. So this must not lead us to inactivity, right? So inactivity was anyway eliminated by God in earlier shlokas. That action is important. Further to this, Bhagavan will explain in the 3rd chapter the difference between action and non-performance of action and non-doership. Very important words for all the active beings. Beings are active only, so applicable to human beings, intelligently active beings, right? Instinctively active beings do not need knowledge. They are yet living an animalistic life. So what if I am a human? But if I am motivated by my instincts, then knowledge is not applicable to me. Knowledge is applicable to intellect, which is not available to me because I live an instinctive life at the level of my mind. And therefore the mind gets disturbed. If I have transcended the mind, then I am living at the intellectual level. Subtler than mind is intellect. So this word is very beautiful. Buddhi Yoga. One must first of all try to unite with one's own intellect. But how can one do that if one is still so much attached to the mind and its desires and attachments, etc., its wants, emotions? So one will not be able to do so. Buddhi Yoga. To get united with one's understanding, intellectual understanding. Why intellect is so important for human beings? Because it is said that the intellect is nishchayatmika buddhi. So intellect is decisive. The mind is changing fast between sankalpa and vikalpa. It takes some decision and it breaks it immediately. It goes through both the pairs of opposites in thoughts. So it is indecisive. So therefore it is volatile. Therefore it is not steady. So therefore it is not advisable to live at that level. And it is extroverted. So it is affected by the world around also. Whereas intellect is introverted. It is towards the self within us. So therefore it is steady and it is decisive also. So therefore it is important to live at the intellectual level. Why so? Because though we read the scriptures, though we listen to the scriptures, though we accept the concepts given in the scriptures, and yet we are unable to live up to it. Why? Because we live yet at the level of the mind. So it decides and it breaks the decision very conveniently. The mind is not steady. It is not only swaying between the pairs of opposites, but also is sanshayatmaka, doubtful about everything. Intellect is doubtless, free from doubts. Therefore, it is decisive. So once you understand, and yet suddenly while experiencing the world, you want to reject your understanding if you are at the mental level. So therefore, it is not advisable at all. Buddhi yoga is important. But unfortunately, even those who are devoted to God or devoted to the scriptural studies, etc., they very rarely would like to live at the intellectual level. They would like to entertain the mind in spite of understanding the shortcomings of mind. So, it is one amongst thousands who will decide to live at the intellectual level and will be able to succeed. Succeed in what? Succeed in finding his own true self. That is the purpose of human life.